10 vegetables you can grow with zero direct sunlight. Now that sounds completely wrong, because everything you've been told about gardening says plants need sunlight to grow. And that's exactly why most people fail when they try to grow food indoors, in shaded spaces, or in low-light environments. So here's the real question. How are some people growing fresh vegetables in apartments, basements, and shaded backyards, while others can't even keep their plants alive without full sun? It's not luck. It's not expensive equipment. And it's definitely not magic. It comes down to understanding one simple thing. Not all vegetables need direct sunlight to grow. Some plants are naturally adapted to low-light conditions. In fact, too much direct sun can actually damage them. And once you know which ones to grow and how to grow them, you can turn even the darkest space into a productive food system. Here on Homestead Growth, we focus on growing smarter, not harder. And in this video, I'm going to show you 10 powerful vegetables that can grow with little to no direct sunlight and still give you a consistent harvest. Let's get into it. Vegetable number 1, lettuce. Lettuce is one of the easiest vegetables to grow in low-light conditions, but what makes it truly valuable is how consistent it is. Many plants can tolerate shade, but lettuce actually performs well in it, often producing better results than it would under harsh, direct sunlight. Excessive sun exposure can cause lettuce to become bitter, dry out quickly, or bolt prematurely, which shortens its productive lifespan. In shaded or indirect light conditions, however, it grows more steadily and maintains better leaf quality. The reason lettuce adapts so well to low-light environments is because of its growth focus. Like spinach, it is a leaf-producing plant, meaning it doesn't need to generate the high levels of energy required for flowering and fruiting. This allows it to grow efficiently with less light, making it perfect for indoor gardens, shaded corners, or areas blocked by walls, fences, or trees. Even a few hours of soft, indirect light each day can be enough to keep lettuce growing productively. Another major advantage is the variety available. From loose leaf types to romaine and butterhead varieties, most lettuce types share the same ability to adapt to reduced light conditions. This gives you flexibility, allowing you to grow a mix of textures and flavors without worrying about whether your lighting conditions are perfect. Instead of being limited, you actually gain more options. Lettuce also rewards proper harvesting techniques. If you harvest the outer leaves instead of cutting the entire plant, it will continue producing new growth from the center. This allows you to extend your harvest over time, turning a single planting into a continuous supply of fresh greens. For low-light environments, this kind of efficiency is exactly what makes lettuce such a valuable and reliable choice. Vegetable number 2, kale. Kale is often associated with strong, outdoor growth under full sunlight, but what many people don't realize is that it's incredibly adaptable and can perform surprisingly well in low-light conditions. This adaptability comes from its natural resilience. It's a plant built to handle stress, whether that's cold temperatures, inconsistent light, or less than ideal growing conditions. That toughness makes it an excellent option for shaded environments where more delicate plants might fail. One of the key reasons kale succeeds in low-light conditions is its ability to tolerate cooler temperatures and slower growth cycles. Unlike plants that depend on rapid, high-energy growth driven by intense sunlight, kale takes a more steady approach. It focuses on producing strong, nutrient-dense leaves over time, which means it doesn't require constant high levels of light to remain productive. This makes it particularly useful for indoor setups or shaded outdoor spaces. Kale also stands out because of how long it continues to produce. While some vegetables have short harvest windows, kale can be harvested continuously over an extended period. By removing the outer leaves and allowing the center to keep growing, you create a cycle where the plant keeps regenerating. This makes it a reliable long-term option rather than a quick, one-time harvest plant. As it matures, kale becomes even more dependable. It adapts to its environment, maintains steady growth, and continues producing even when conditions are not ideal. For anyone dealing with limited sunlight, this kind of consistency is critical. Instead of constantly replacing plants that fail, you build a system around plants like kale that continue working for you over time. Vegetable number 3, spinach. Spinach is one of the most dependable vegetables you can grow when direct sunlight is limited, yet it's often misunderstood by beginners who assume all leafy greens need full sun to perform well. In reality, Spinach naturally thrives in cooler, shaded environments where light is softer and temperatures are more stable. When exposed to too much direct sunlight and heat, spinach actually begins to struggle. It bolts quickly, meaning it shifts from producing leaves to producing seeds, effectively ending your harvest much sooner than expected. What makes spinach so effective in low-light conditions is the way it uses energy. Unlike fruiting plants that rely heavily on intense sunlight to produce flowers and fruit, spinach focuses entirely on leaf development. This means it can continue growing steadily even when light levels are reduced, as long as it receives some form of indirect or diffused light. This makes it an ideal choice for indoor growing setups, shaded patios, balconies, or even areas of your garden that never receive direct sunlight throughout the day. Another advantage of spinach is how quickly it establishes itself and begins producing usable leaves. In the right conditions, you won't have to wait long before you can start harvesting. And once you begin, the plant responds by producing more leaves, allowing for continuous harvests instead of a single yield. This makes it incredibly efficient, especially in small spaces where maximizing output is important. Over time, spinach becomes one of those plants that works with you instead of against you. It doesn't demand constant adjustment. It doesn't fail easily under low-light stress, and it continues to provide steady results when many other plants would slow down or stop completely. If you're trying to grow food in a space without direct sunlight, spinach isn't just an option. It's one of your strongest starting points. Vegetable number 4, arugula. Arugula is one of those vegetables that doesn't just tolerate low-light conditions. It actually performs better in them compared to harsh, direct sunlight. Many people assume faster-growing greens need more sun to keep up that speed, but arugula proves the opposite. When exposed to intense sunlight and heat, it tends to bolt quickly, producing flowers and seeds instead of the leafy greens you're trying to harvest. In shaded or low-light environments, however, it slows down just enough to focus on steady, usable leaf production. What makes arugula especially valuable is how quickly it responds to the environment you give it. Even in low-light conditions, it germinates fast and begins producing harvestable leaves within a short period. This makes it one of the best options if you're trying to get quick results without relying on direct sunlight. Whether you're growing indoors, under a shaded structure, or in a part of your garden that rarely sees the sun, arugula adapts and continues growing without significant issues. Another advantage is its flavor profile, which tends to improve in lower light conditions. Instead of becoming overly bitter due to stress from heat and sun exposure, arugula grown in shade often develops a milder, more balanced taste. This makes it not just easier to grow, but more enjoyable to eat. It's one of those rare cases where less sunlight can actually lead to better results. As you continue harvesting, arugula behaves much like other leafy greens. It keeps producing new leaves when cut properly. This allows you to maintain a steady supply without needing to constantly replant. In low-light systems where efficiency matters, that ability to regenerate makes arugula a powerful and practical addition. Vegetable number 5, Swiss chard. Swiss chard is often overlooked in low-light gardening, but it's one of the most reliable and adaptable vegetables you can grow in shaded conditions. While it can handle sunlight, it doesn't depend on it in the same way fruiting plants do. Instead, it focuses on producing large, nutrient-rich leaves over time, making it highly suitable for environments where direct sunlight is limited or completely unavailable. What sets Swiss chard apart is its ability to maintain strong growth even when light levels are reduced. It doesn't shut down or struggle the way more sensitive plants might. Instead, it adjusts its growth rate and continues producing leaves steadily. This makes it ideal for indoor growing setups, shaded balconies, or areas where sunlight is filtered or indirect for most of the day. Another key advantage is its long harvesting period. Swiss chard is not a plant you harvest once and remove. It's something you build into your system for continuous production. By cutting the outer leaves and leaving the center intact, the plant continues to regenerate, giving you fresh growth over an extended period. This kind of longevity is exactly what you need when working with limited growing space and light. Over time, Swiss chard becomes one of the most dependable plants in your setup. It doesn't require constant monitoring. It adapts to changing conditions, and it continues to provide value long after other plants would have slowed down. In a low-light garden, reliability like this is what keeps your system productive. Vegetable number 6, green onions. Green onions are one of the simplest and most efficient vegetables you can grow without direct sunlight, yet they are often underestimated. Unlike many other plants, they don't require large amounts of light or space to produce usable growth. This makes them ideal for indoor environments, small containers, or shaded areas where other vegetables might struggle to establish themselves. One of the reasons green onions perform so well in low-light conditions is because of how they grow. You're not waiting for fruit or large leaves. You're harvesting the stems, which requires significantly less energy to produce. This allows the plant to continue growing even when light levels are limited. As long as there is some indirect light available, green onions will keep regenerating. Another major advantage is how easy they are to maintain. You can regrow them from scraps, meaning even the base of a store-bought green onion can be placed in water or soil and begin producing again. This makes them one of the most accessible options for beginners or anyone trying to grow food with minimal resources and effort. As you continue harvesting, green onions respond by regrowing from the base, allowing you to cut and come back multiple times. This creates a continuous cycle of production that requires very little input once established. For low-light environments, this kind of efficiency is hard to beat. It's simple, reliable, and consistently productive. Vegetable number 7, beet greens. Beets are usually grown for their roots, but what most people don't realize is that their leaves, known as beet greens, are highly productive and perform surprisingly well in low-light conditions. In fact, when grown without direct sunlight, beets tend to focus more on leaf production rather than root development, which actually works in your favor if your goal is continuous harvesting. What makes beet greens such a powerful option is their efficiency. Instead of waiting for a full root to mature, which requires more energy and stronger light, you can begin harvesting the leaves early. These leaves are nutrient-dense, versatile, and can be used in a variety of meals, making them just as valuable, if not more, than the root itself. This shifts your approach from waiting to harvesting consistently. Another advantage is how adaptable the plant is. Even in shaded environments, beets will continue to grow steadily, producing leaves that can be harvested multiple times. As long as you avoid removing too many leaves at once, the plant keeps regenerating, allowing you to extend its productivity over a longer period. This makes it ideal for small, low-light setups where every plant needs to contribute continuously. Over time, beet greens become one of those hidden crops that quietly outperform expectations. While others struggle trying to grow full root vegetables in low light, you're already harvesting usable greens from the same plant. It's not just about what you grow, it's about how you use it. Vegetable number 8, radish greens. Radishes are known for their quick growth, but what many people overlook is how useful their greens are, especially in low-light conditions. While the root itself may not fully develop without strong sunlight, the leaves grow quickly and can be harvested early, giving you a fast and reliable source of fresh greens even in shaded environments. What makes radish greens stand out is their speed. In low-light setups where growth can be slower for many plants, radishes still manage to establish quickly and begin producing leaves within a short period. This makes them perfect if you're looking for something that delivers results fast without needing ideal conditions. The leaves themselves have a slightly peppery flavor, similar to arugula, and can be used in salads, stir-fries, or cooked dishes. Instead of focusing only on the root, you're unlocking an additional layer of productivity from the plant. This is especially important in low-light gardening, where maximizing output from each plant makes a big difference. By harvesting the greens early and regularly, you turn radishes into a continuous producer rather than a one-time crop. It's a simple shift in approach, but it allows you to get consistent value from a plant that many people would otherwise overlook in shaded conditions. Vegetable number 9, mushrooms. If there's one crop that completely breaks the rules of traditional gardening, it's mushrooms. Unlike vegetables that rely on photosynthesis, mushrooms don't need sunlight at all. They grow in dark, moist environments, feeding on organic material rather than light. This makes them the ultimate solution for spaces where sunlight is completely unavailable. What makes mushrooms especially powerful is how efficient they are in controlled environments. Basements, closets, or shaded indoor areas can all be transformed into productive growing spaces with the right setup. Instead of worrying about light levels, your focus shifts to humidity, temperature, and airflow, factors that are often easier to control indoors. Another advantage is how quickly certain varieties can produce. Depending on the type, mushrooms can go from setup to harvest in a relatively short time. This makes them one of the most efficient ways to produce food in environments where traditional plants would fail completely. It's not just an alternative, it's a completely different system that works where nothing else does. Once you understand how mushrooms grow, they open up a whole new way of thinking about food production. Instead of being limited by sunlight, you start using spaces that would otherwise go unused. In low-light or no-light environments, that's a major advantage. Vegetable number 10, mint. Mint might not be the first plant people think of when it comes to low-light gardening, but it's one of the most aggressive and adaptable growers you can have. While it's technically an herb, its growth pattern and productivity make it function very much like a leafy vegetable in terms of how often you can harvest and use it. What makes mint stand out is its ability to grow almost anywhere. It doesn't rely on intense sunlight to spread and produce leaves. In fact, it often performs better in partial shade, where it avoids the stress of excessive heat and direct exposure. This makes it perfect for shaded gardens, indoor setups, or areas where sunlight is limited. Another key advantage is how quickly it grows and spreads. Once established, mint expands rapidly, producing more leaves than you can use if left unchecked. This makes it one of the most productive plants in low-light conditions, but it also means you need to manage it properly, usually by growing it in containers to control its spread. Over time, mint becomes one of those plants that never really stops producing. As long as you keep harvesting, it keeps growing back, creating a continuous cycle of fresh leaves. In a low-light system, that kind of consistency is incredibly valuable. It's not just easy to grow, it's hard to stop. At the end of the day, the issue isn't always the amount of sunlight you have. It's often the type of plants you're trying to grow. Once you switch to vegetables that are naturally suited for low-light conditions, you stop struggling and start seeing more consistent results. Instead of forcing plants to survive in the wrong environment, you're working with plants that are built for it. That's what we focus on here on Homestead Growth, helping you grow smarter and get better results with what you already have. If you found this helpful, make sure you subscribe and stay tuned for more.